Hello, my amazing learners, and welcome back to the Wisdom English podcast. My name is Sarah. Today, I am going to give you lots of ideas about how to practice speaking English when you are alone, at home. Do you feel like you're not making progress with your spoken English because you're stuck? Let me help you. It's not so easy for many people, right? Because maybe you don't have any native English speakers in your city. Maybe there are no tourists that you can go and talk to. Maybe there are no local groups where you can go and chat in English. And maybe you're not quite ready to go on Skype and find some random English person to chat with. Somebody you don't know. I mean, that can be quite hard, especially if you're a little bit shy like me. So what I want to do today is share with you lots of ideas about how you can practice speaking when you're on your own, at home alone. And make sure you stay with me until the very end because I'll reveal the simple secret that makes practicing alone incredibly effective. The truth about speaking is that yes, you can watch videos, you can watch films, and you can listen to podcasts. All of that is great for your input. But at some point, you need to start speaking. You need to produce the language. And while later, you'll need to start interacting and practicing with other people, that's not always easy to do at first. So, right now, today, I'm going to focus on some really practical, simple activities you can do when you're on your own at home to start building your speaking confidence. The first technique is called Speak into the Mirror, and this is really useful because it's so simple. It's easy because you can do this first thing in the morning when you're getting ready, or in the evening before going to bed when you wash your face. This is good because the key to learning is building a habit. And if you can attach your new learning habit to an existing habit, like brushing your teeth or washing your face, then it makes it much easier to remember to do it. I used to do this when I was learning Spanish. In the morning, after brushing my teeth, I would just have a few sentences talking about what I was going to do that day, using future tenses. I would say things like, today I'm going to go to the park, I need to go to the supermarket, I'm going to buy some vegetables, I'm meeting my friend Jack at 6 o'clock. I might go to the cinema later. It's a brilliant way to practice talking about your plans. And then, at the end of the day, you can do the opposite. You can talk about what you did or what you have done using past tenses. For example, today I went to the park, I played football, I went shopping in the end, I've done a lot. It has been a good day. So you can see, it's actually a great way to practice different tenses. It's a bit like writing in a diary at the end of the day, but you are speaking. Practicing in front of the mirror is nice. It's a form of reflective learning in many ways. The next technique I call collocation fun. Collocations are words that are often used together in English. For example, we talk about heavy rain. We don't usually say big rain. The words heavy and rain are like friends. They like to stick together. Collocation fun is where we're going to practice speaking using a very common teaching method called prepare, practice, present. First, you prepare. You take a topic, for example, science. Then, you find some collocations related to that topic. You can use your course book, or you can get them from the internet. You can find lists of collocations for almost any topic. For example, for science, you might find phrases like exact science, it's not rocket science, or to be on the same wavelength. That's step 1, the preparation. Step 2 is to practice. In front of the mirror, you just make a simple sentence with each collocation. For example, for exact science, you could say, Well, parenting or bringing up children is not an exact science, for it's not rocket science. You could say, frying an egg is not rocket science. It's actually quite easy. You're just practicing simple sentences here. And then in the end, after you've practiced, you present. You can take an old speaking test question about science. Maybe something like, describe an area of science you're interested in. And then you start to talk about it for maybe a minute, and you try, if possible, to use some of these phrases and sentences you've been practicing. So you might say something like this. Well, an area of science I'm interested in is actually cooking. I know it's not an exact science, but I guess it's a branch of food science. I am interested in the science behind cooking. I think it's very interesting. I know with cooking, when you heat things up, they change. And when you mix different things, like sugar and vinegar, you get different levels of acidity and chemical reactions happen. I think chefs and scientists are really on the same wavelength because they're both trying to experiment and discover new things. I know cooking isn't rocket science, but I am interested in how it works. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm not trying to give a perfect answer. I'm just trying to activate and practice some of these expressions that I've been learning. This method is great because preparing the collocations, practicing the sentences, and then presenting a talk is a really tried and tested method. And when you do it in front of the mirror, you get many benefits. You can see your mouth and the movements you're making, which is useful for pronunciation. You can also check your body language. You might be surprised to see that you speak without ever moving your arms, or that you're making a strange face. Being aware of your body language can be very good. And also, you feel like you're talking to someone. Many people, including myself, have practiced for a long time with a book, and then when they go to speak to a real person, it's a shock to see a face in front of them. But by practicing with the mirror, you get used to seeing a face in front of you, which can really help. Next up is to practice with short audios. Now, I am a big fan of extensive listening, like listening to long podcasts and films. That's great for your comprehension. But when it comes to practicing speaking, I think short audios are much better. They are bite-sized chunks, they're easy to use, and you can maintain your concentration for shorter periods of time. You can work with, for example, recorded sample answers from English exams. There are many websites that have these. Just make sure they are recorded, not written, because you want to listen and then speak. There are many tools online that are full of short audios that you can use to help you start speaking. I won't recommend a specific one, but many are free. Let me show you how this might work. You can find a short audio clip from a lesson or a story. First, I want you to focus on the stressed words as you listen. For example, if the sentence is, "Nice to see you again," you would just repeat the stressed words, nice, see, again. Then, if the next sentence is, "I'd like to chat a bit about your interest in sports," you would repeat chat, interest, sports. You're just repeating the stressed words. You can also pick out chunks or phrases that you like or that sound interesting. For example, if you hear, "I lived in Sendai for 4 years, which is a little bit north of Tokyo," you might repeat the chunk, "a little bit north, a little bit north." That's an interesting and natural phrase. Or if you hear, "I played a little bit of soccer," you might repeat, "a little bit of soccer, a little bit of soccer." So you can see, I'm picking out either the stressed words or little phrases or chunks that I like, and this is really helping us listen and prepare for speaking. Next, what you'll do is try to repeat the audio or the lesson, giving a summary in your own words. You're not reading, and you're not listening to the original. You're just focusing on your own words. And then, after you've done that and you've practiced a bit, you could then try to retell the lesson or the story and record yourself. You can use your phone's mobile app to record your voice, or there are many simple online voice recorders. Recording yourself is great because it puts a little bit of pressure on you, and that pressure is good for learning. Also, once you've listened back to your recording, you can go and compare it to the original lesson or story and see if it's different. Did you make a mistake? That noticing is a kind of feedback, which is essential to improve. The next technique is really fun, and it's about imitating your favorite English-speaking actor or actress. When you watch a film in English, take some of the actors that you really like and pretend to be them. You're copying their body language, their gestures, their facial expressions, their accent, their voice, and their words. You're copying everything. Why does this work? Because it's all about identity. A key part of language learning is your identity as an English speaker. And as students, we often feel shy or embarrassed. We can create a mask that we can hide behind when we speak a foreign language. And this can be very, very helpful to reduce anxiety or stress, especially if you're shy and don't want to make mistakes. When you have this mask to hide behind, it doesn't matter because you're being somebody else, and it's great fun to do this with actors and actresses that you like. For example, there's a great actor called Rowan Atkinson. You may know him as Mr. Bean, but he plays many other characters, and one of the recent ones is Johnny English. You could watch a scene with him and then try to copy his voice and his whole body language. You become that character. You can do that when you're practicing speaking on your own. You probably don't want to do it when you're out at the shops or speaking to foreign people. They might think you're mad, but when you're having fun at home, it can be a great way to practice. The next one is to send audio messages. If you're using apps like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, we often send text messages. You probably send them in your own language, but you could think about sending them in English. And you can go a step further and send an audio message rather than a written message, because that will be practicing your speaking. You can do this if you have some friends who maybe speak English or family members. You can have a bit of fun with them, practicing sending messages to each other in English. And the great thing about sending audio messages is that it's not like a live phone conversation where the pressure is there. You have time to prepare, to think about what you're going to say, to record it, and if you don't like it, you can delete it and record it again. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about practice, not perfection. Next up is a funny one. Imitate the English foreigner. I'm sure most people can imagine or know how English people speak your language. Think about it. If you've met tourists or people from other countries who speak your language, how do the English people speak it? They probably don't speak perfectly. They speak with an English accent. I want you to take that sound, that accent, and start to use it. First, speak your own language with that English accent, and then switch to English but keep that accent. You might be surprised at how natural your English starts to sound. For example, if I were Spanish, I might try to speak Spanish with an English accent, and then switch to English, keeping that same sound. It can be quite useful and fun to boot. Next, let's talk about shadowing. Of course, a shadow is the dark shape behind you when the sun is shining. and to shadow someone is to follow them very closely. In language learning, when we shadow somebody, it means to repeat what they are saying, but very closely behind them. You are not waiting for the sentence to finish. You are repeating almost on top of their voice, maybe just a fraction of a second behind them. This forces you to pick up on word stress and intonation, and if you focus on those two things, it can really help build up your speaking skill. Let me demonstrate. If I were shadowing a speaker who said, "Hello, Jeremy, let's get into it, let's talk about movies," I would say, "Hello, Jeremy, let's get into it, let's talk about movies," almost at the same time. At first, it's very hard, but the more you do it, the more you'll be noticing word stress, intonation, and even accent. The next tip is about responding. Put very simply, responding is when you hear a question, you get an idea, and you give an answer. You respond. The biggest problem students have is that they practice questions they have already prepared. But in a real exam, you will get strange questions you weren't ready for. And students often tell me, "I didn't know what to say, I wasn't expecting that." So, you need to practice responding to unexpected questions. You can do this with a speaking partner. You can each bring 5 surprise questions to your next session and ask each other. It's a shock at first, but it's like going to the gym. You practice this skill and you build it up. You can also find resources online. There are many YouTube channels that have recorded questions with a gap for you to answer. You can press the shuffle button so the questions come at you in a random order. This is a great way to practice responding under a little bit of pressure. The next suggestion is to describe what you are doing or what you see. I know a lot of teachers suggest this as a way of thinking in English. When you're out and about, maybe in the park, you can describe what you see. I suggest you start with single words. For example, you look around the park and you think, bicycle, person, path, trees, bag, woman, phone. Then, as you're walking around, you make collocations or little chunks of language. Riding a bike, a long path, a cluster of trees, a woman glued to her phone, having a picnic. And then you can go on to make full sentences. There's a man strolling in the park. There's a woman riding a bike. There's a woman glued to her phone and she looks like she's about to have a picnic. You can do it in any context. You can do it at home or when you're out at the shops. And you may think, "But Sarah, you can't go around the streets talking to yourself. People will think you're mad." Well, yes and no. Nowadays, you can just put on some headphones. People will think you're on the phone, and it's perfectly normal to be talking to yourself in the streets. The next tip is to sing in English. Find a song you like in English, get the lyrics, and sing along. This is a great way to learn because you pick up on the melody, the intonation, connected speech, contractions, and weak sounds. All of those important pronunciation features really come out very strongly in songs. So it really is a very powerful way to practice. And don't worry if you're out of tune. I am terrible at singing, but that doesn't stop me from singing in the shower because I enjoy it. So don't worry about that. Just practice. Next up is tongue twisters. Tongue twisters are things that are difficult to say, and they really focus on pronunciation. They're a lot of fun, and they're good to try. They help you focus on specific sounds. The idea is to repeat the riddle or the phrase 3 or 4 times until you get more fluent with it. It's like a gym workout for your mouth. In English, you are using different muscles from your own language, and tongue twisters are a great way to practice those muscles. For example, to practice the R sound, you could try, "The ragged rascal ran round the ragged rock." Try it a few times, getting faster each time. Or for the S and sh sounds, you can try, "She sells seashells on the seashore." You can even make up your own tongue twisters for the sounds that you struggle with. Next, you can practice idioms with online tools. There are amazing websites that are basically like YouTube, but with short clips. You can type in any phrase or idiom, and it will give you lots of video clips of native speakers using that idiom in context. You can practice by imitating the intonation and the sound, and you can get some context for the idiom, which always helps. It's a really effective way to do it. For example, you could look up the idiom, "pull your socks up," which means to work harder or to do better. You can see how different people, with different accents, use this phrase in a natural way. Next up, immerse yourself in English. To immerse yourself means to surround yourself with English. It's well known through research that the more you can be immersed in English, the more you're going to learn. I suggest you do a lifestyle audit. An audit is like a check or a checklist. Think about where you use English and where you use your mother tongue. Think about when you're using your phone or your computer. Are the settings in English? When you're texting or participating on Facebook, are you doing it in English? When you're listening to podcasts, watching films, or reading books, how much of it is in English? And what can you switch to English to help immerse yourself more? A lot of this is passive input, but it gives you the opportunity to listen, read, and see more English, and in some cases, to use it as well. Now, we're coming on to two really important points here, and these are about the bigger picture, goals and habits. First, about goals. You should set yourself some short-term goals for speaking English. If you just think, "I'm going to practice," it's all very loose. But people often like frameworks, limits, and goals. So, you could say, "For the next 4 weeks, I'm going to speak English every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 20 minutes. That's it." What's so good about that is that you can measure it. You can tick it off on your calendar, and at the end of the 4 weeks, you can see how much you've done. As you're ticking it off, it's motivating you to keep going. It's nice to measure your progress. There's a famous writer, James Clear, who talks about atomic habits. He talks about breaking down big goals into smaller goals, and I think that's really important. Rather than saying, "For the next 6 months, I will practice an hour every day," which is very big and difficult, you should say, "For the next week, I'll do 5 minutes a day." Set yourself up to win. Make the goals really, really simple. And on the point of goals, there's going to be a day where you're just too tired and fed up and you don't want to do it. There's a little trick called the 1-minute trick. You're thinking, "Today I said I'm going to speak for 10 minutes, but I just can't." The 1-minute trick is you say to yourself, "Okay, I'm just going to take 1 minute to practice." So instead of 10 today, you just do 1 minute. But you don't stop. You don't say you're not going to do it. You still do it, but just for 1 minute. And try that. What often happens is, after a minute, once you've started, you think, "I might as well do another couple of minutes now that I've started." And you often end up doing your full 10 minutes. But the 1-minute trick is really powerful for getting started. Next, let's talk about habits. If possible, when you've got your goals in your speaking practice, try to do it in the same place at the same time every day. This helps to build a habit. And also, if you have a cue, a signal that indicates it's time to practice it makes it much easier. The cue could be a time, like 11 o'clock every morning, or it could be an existing habit like brushing your teeth in the morning. Remember, you can practice in front of the mirror for 2 minutes after you brush your teeth. Having that cue, in the same place, at the same time every day, makes it much easier to build a lasting habit. Finally, you thought we would never arrive at the end, right? My last piece of advice is to join a community. Often when you're practicing alone, it can be a lonely experience. So even though your practice is at home alone, having some kind of contact with a community, even if it's just reading, writing, or typing, can be very motivating. There are lots of Facebook groups for English learners. Being a part of a community can really help just to motivate you. Even if you're not speaking in the group, you can practice at home on your own, but just having people you're sharing your learning journey with is very powerful. Conclusion. The final secret. So there you have it. More than a dozen interesting, useful, and practical ideas for you to practice speaking English at home. I hope you can take some of these and start practicing. I think it's all a question of confidence. The more you speak, the more confident you get, and the more ready you are for any English speaking test or real-life conversation. I hope if you practice these, you can be ready to move up to the next step, because I do think it's also important to interact with other people. And maybe this can help you get ready to find a speaking partner, or speak with a friend in English, or even find a teacher, where you can go and practice more and more. Whichever way you go, enjoy it and have fun with English as well. And now for the secret I promised at the beginning. The single most important secret that makes practicing alone so effective is this. The most important speaking partner you will ever have is yourself. If you can build the habit of speaking to yourself with kindness, with curiosity, and with consistency, you will build a foundation of confidence that you can take into any conversation with anyone else. The kindness you show yourself when you make a mistake is the same patience you will have for others. The curiosity you have when you explore new words alone is the same engagement you will bring to a real conversation. It all starts with you. So, my challenge to you is this. Choose just one of the techniques we talked about today, maybe speaking into the mirror, or shadowing a short audio, or singing one song, and do it for just 5 minutes tomorrow. Just one small action. Then, come back to this video and write in the comments which technique you chose. Let's build this habit together. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Wisdom English podcast channel to watch our next videos.